Hello and welcome back. Our last show, we started out by explaining things about the different terms that we use and that we will be using. We also different theories. We also went over some of the things from the previous show, which is how life is there to promote stillness. And while a lot of Black people have a problem with saying that there's mental illness in the Black community, they are forced to admit it in the discussion when we talk about the different things that are going on in the Black community. They have to admit, well, yeah, that is mental illness. And so many Black people who have take issue with saying that there's mental illness hear things like the Black male holding up his hand. And while Blacks see this all day long, and they realize on some level that it is a mental illness, they have been programmed not to call it that, which is why it does not get fixed. So you will find that unlike most organizations, unlike most homes, we have the Black Community Fix It campaign, and we address those things that other organizations in the Black community have been programmed to avoid. And if you avoid something, let's say, people talk about the elephant in the living room. Well, you can pass by it all day, every day, and pretend it's not there. But there are things that Black people are doing that is feeding that elephant, and pretty soon it busts out of your home and into the neighbor's home. And, the neighbors start feeding into it, and next thing you know, bust out of the neighbors' homes and into the community. So, your neighborhood, your community, your whole world ends up pretty messed up. So we also had a question as to what, and it was a valid question. The person thought that maybe the question was a stupid question, but it was not. It is a question that many people ask because it's never defined for them. They never really get a clear understanding when people are talking what it consists of. So we were asked, what constitutes a Black neighborhood? What constitutes my neighborhood? If a person is trying to fix their neighborhood, how much of what area are they concentrating on? Because they feel like the problem is so big that, to try and fix their neighborhood, that's a huge thing. So we broke it down for them. Anything that you start, when you set out to say, okay, I'm ready to do this, I'm going to roll up my streets, I'm going to fix my neighborhood. And that's the kind of the second phase, the second part. There are actually 9 parts to fixing this thing. Your neighborhood consists of the 9 houses, the 8 around you and your house, okay? So if you figure you got, not the 9 houses, sorry, the 9 blocks. When you talk about your neighborhood, those are the 3 blocks from you in either direction. So if you're talking about the 3 blocks behind your house, those 3 blocks are what you're going to be focusing on. If you talk about 3 blocks down, 3 blocks to the side, and then you're going to talk about the 3 blocks over. So by the time you're done, you will have 12 blocks altogether that you will be dealing with. But try to start out with the first ones around you. So you will start out with the block, your block, where your house is, the block where your house is. So if your house is on the left side, that entire circle, that entire block is what we're focusing on. And then your neighbors across the street would constitute another block because it's the circle around the street that they're on. So, it's a lot easier for those that are seeing the television show because they're able to visually see what you're talking about. But for the radio show, hopefully you'll be able to get an image in your head of what I'm speaking of. So you're on this side of the street. So let's say there's an alley behind your house, or just the next house is you're separated just by a fence. So it would be your house, and then you went out of your house and you walked around your block, the block that your house is on. That's 1 block of your neighborhood. Okay? And so we're going to deal with 12 of those all together because we're going to deal with 3 in front of you, 3 in back of you, and then 3 on each side of you. But in some places, you're only going to have a couple of blocks on the side of you before you're in a whole other area. But let's just focus on 3 blocks down. Put the left hand out, go out on the porch, put the left hand out, and you see the end of your block. From the end of the block that you're on, I want you to count 3 more blocks. So you'll be, the next block, the next block, the next block. And then if you put your hand out to the right, you see the end of your block. So you're going to start from the end of that block on your right side. And you're going to go 1, 2, 3 more blocks. And then when you're looking in front of you, you should see your neighbor's house in front of you. And you're going to count your neighbor's block, the block behind your neighbor, and the block behind that. When you look at if you go out on your back porch and you see the back of your yard, and it's connected to your neighbor's yard behind you. So you're not going to count your neighbor's yard behind you because that's part of your block. You're going to go across from that neighbor, which will start the next block. So go 1, 2, 3. Okay? So that consists of a neighborhood. Okay? The 12 blocks consist of a neighborhood. Now, when you talk about a community consists of an area that at whatever your district is. So let's say you can pretty much tell a community by the major cross streets. And sometimes your 12 blocks are within that community. So let's say you live in the downtown community. Well, unfortunately for the cities, because they keep politically changing the lines of the community for political purposes, it's hard to determine from the city standpoint what your community is. But to give you a kind of loose idea of what your community is, think of the major streets in your city. And so if, let's say, your major street would be in Philadelphia or New York or somewhere, you may have, I don't know these streets, so don't hold you to these streets. I'm just kind of throwing something out there so you can see. And I'm sure some New Yorkers going to call and say, there ain't nowhere near that. You know, you got that wrong. Look, let me use some streets in a place where I know, so I don't hear people saying, Broadway does not intersect with so-and-so. Okay, because you always hear somebody talk about what happens in 25th and Broadway, and you'd be like, you've never actually been to New York County. You haven't spent a lot of time there. So your history, may or may not connect. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time in New York, or I can't tell you the 100% Broadway connect. It might not. But let's talk about a place where I have to speak that. Let's talk about California. There's a few states that I can talk about. Let's talk about California. If you think of, let's say, in the black neighborhood that consists of Crenshaw, I'm trying to get a visual of it. It's been a long time. Crenshaw. And then you have Vernon. And so Vernon comes down, and you have the corner of Crenshaw and Vernon. And then you go down Vernon, and you get to Western. You go down Western, and you're going to get to, let's say, what's the next other street from there? Go past, that's before Martin Luther King. Okay? So if you take Crenshaw, go down Vernon, and it's been a long time, so I don't know if these streets are still named that. But I know Martin Luther King used to be Santa Barbara a long time ago. But you go start at Crenshaw, go down Vernon. You get to Vernon, you're going to make that left onto Western. Go down Western, and you're going to make that turn and get to Martin Luther King. Go down Martin Luther King until you get to Crenshaw. And then make that left on Crenshaw and come back to your starting point. Okay? And those of you that have been to California, been to the town of California, you can get a visual image of what I'm talking about. But basically, you're talking about 4 major streets around you. So if you're somewhere in the middle there, let's say you're in Leimert, somewhere near Leimert Park or somewhere in the Leimert area, that's your community. And so you're in, let's say you're on St. Andrews, those are the 4 streets around your neighborhood. And so your neighborhood sits in that community. And that helps you, hopefully, understand the difference between your neighborhood and your community. Your community is usually, and not always, in some small towns, your community is a huge area when you count the blocks. But for those that are in cities, your block consists of a certain amount of feet and a certain amount of yards. And so you're going to count the 12 different blocks. And then your neighborhood is going to sit within 4 major streets, 4 major thoroughfares. So you'll be able to understand your community. So for those of you that have never had that particular question answered before, I hope that at least gives you some type of basis now on to know what we're talking about when we talk about a neighborhood. The 9 different sections of your your existence as a black person consists of your household as number one, your neighborhood is number two, your community is number three, your city is number four, your county is number five, your state is number six, your nation is number seven, your world is number eight, and then your universe is number nine. So if you are trying to fix things, you can jump around all you want to, and you see cultural organizations and civil rights organizations, political organizations, they tend to jump around. They're trying to fix stuff all over the place. But if you're trying to strategically start undoing some of this damage, if you're trying to strategically, we work on reparations. And so part of the reparation site is knowing how to begin the repairing once the reparations have been achieved. And so the conversation part of it, the repairing part of it, starts with, of course, each individual fixing their household. And if you have each individual fixing their household, then once they do that, those individuals will come outside of your household, and a lot of the repairing will already have been done because it's individual households that make our neighborhood. So now all they do is they can focus on cleaning up the neighborhood and, fixing up houses or whatever, or houses that are not occupied or whatever the situation. And so you'll get those households in those blocks that will now come out of their household and start fixing up the neighborhood. Once you have several neighborhoods that are repairing themselves, then those neighborhoods will get together, and that community, they form a community. That community will start working on any issues that are faced by that community. And so you have each community working on its situation and the different things going on, whether it's the schools, whether it's the building a community center, or whatever it is. Each community starts doing those things. You start seeing improvement. And then those communities, you might have in a city, you may have 50, 75, 100 different communities in that city. And so if each of those communities have begun repairing themselves, then you start seeing that city improve. And I know talking to people from Detroit, they have seen their city go down. And like I told them, if you were able to see the things that were done that made the city go down, then the opposite of those things are what you need to do in order to build your city back up. And so it's just a matter of deciding to fix it. And once you decide to fix it, you simply do the opposite of the things that you give, the things that you accepted, the things that you were programmed to support and to know. If those things are deteriorated for the community, then you know you have to support against those things. You have to stop promoting those things. And so once you do that, you understand what is involved. Okay, so you have your city. Once it has begun repairing itself, well, your city is among other cities. For example, in Georgia, you have 529 cities. So each of those cities, and you have a couple that are trying to come down cities. Some of them have already done it. So you're doing that number will go up to about 531, I believe. two that are trying to form. Anyway, so you have, well, we're going to go with what we have, statistically what we have on paper right now, which is 529 cities. And each of those, the blacks in each of those cities are repairing things. So then those 529 cities make up, make up the county. So in one county, you may have, 23 cities. And in that 23 cities that make up that county, then each of those cities are repairing themselves. Then you'll see that county doing better. And I know here in Georgia, the cities are more widespread. So you may only have maybe 10 cities or 9 cities within a county, because the counties are so huge. It's a lot of space. And so the same thing goes for that. You have 9 cities that where the blacks are repairing the situation, the blacks in those cities. And so that county starts looking better. And so in Georgia, you have 150 counties. And so each of those, the blacks of each of those counties are fixing things. And of course, the state of Georgia starts looking better for black people. And of course, you have 50 states. So if black people are fixing their households, their neighborhoods, their communities, their cities, and their counties in each of those states, and repairing the things, the damage that was done to the blacks in each of those areas, then you'll start seeing blacks doing better in each of the states. And once blacks are repairing things or improving things for black people in each of the states, you'll start seeing things get better and improve for blacks in the country, in the nation. And so there's blacks in each of the 288 nations, countries are doing the same things, are fixing their communities. You'll start seeing the black world repair itself. As the black world repairs itself, they'll start repairing some of that information that they had, that the rocks of this planet, of this world, some of the information left by black ancestors about things outside of this world, that religion that for the purpose of controlling and dominating Negro people, religion forms these fictitious stories about the Negro population starting on this planet, and that we know is not true. And even though people still, like I say, support and promote these things that they know are not true, because there's thousands of pieces of evidence that shows that life for the Negro population did not start with this planet. There were certain things that were brought here to this planet that are not of this planet or from this planet. Materials, information, all kind of stuff. So once they start recovering and researching and restoring that information into their curriculum, they will be able to start repairing their universe. A lot of damage has been done to the universe. And so, a lot of information is lost about the universe. Things that a lot of people used to know about the universe, that they're not only no longer teaching or learning, but they're actually forgetting and regretting, repelling from. So we're just, that will be a question that gave us the opportunity to explain. And so I'm actually having a There are times with the explanation that people ask some deep questions, just let me know that they are having deep discussions about themselves. And when they get to a question that they just, they're causing some issue in the discussion, they're able to email and ask that question so that the discussion can move forward. So, we once again use half of the show for the definition and explanation. That's okay. Because in our last show we talked about the things that, the things, the ideas that white put in black women's head. And then they proceeded to program black women. I told you they've been programming black women for 45 years with the white soap operas. And okay. We really go live, so we have this is the last kind of hurrah for like motorcycle riders. So it's starting to get colder, so they're trying to get that last events and riding in. So we had a group of them that was going by. But like I said, we have black women who have been programmed through not just soap operas, but if you watch a 1 hour soap opera, for every 1 hour that of soap opera that you think you're watching, you're actually only watching 15 minutes, 13 or 15 minutes of actual show. You watch 45 minutes of commercial. And usually now you're watching 13 minutes of show, 45 minutes of commercial, and 2 minutes of promo, face promo. So that's kind of the crack addiction that black women have had to these white. The shows actually used to be so about something around the end of the 70s. They started sprinkling in Negro characters, and usually you'll only find 1 or 2 Negro characters per soap opera show. And those characters that you find will start out back in the 80s. They would start out as being black, and then over time, you just about 5 years of being on the show, you would see them start acting more like white, and changing the way they talk, and starting to do the little demonic and devious things that the white characters do. But so you have the different commercials that program black women, and of course you have afterwards you have the talk shows that start coming up in the 80s, the end of the 80s and the 90s, and those talk shows started like crack, promoting various dysfunction to black women, and unfortunately black women fell for it. And then, of course, you have the news, which tends to paint white as superior and black as inferior. And, of course, that's followed by different primetime shows, which are used to promote white supremacy and black inferiority. So in the course of a day, from the time that it was up, from game shows in the morning to primetime television shows, you have black women and black men, but particularly black women, sitting there being programmed to accept white supremacy and black inferiority. And so we talked about that on the previous show. And on the last show, of course, we talked about uh, the uh, way that leads black children to fend for themselves. And the result of those black children, not being able to, you got black children that can't even really say much to their mother for 4 to 5 hours while the stories are on. And then you got a little bit of time while the news is on before the talk shows come on and you can't talk to them. And it's up again. And then you got a little bit of time before the time shows come on and you can't interrupt again. So we left children with, you used to didn't have black children have television in their room. You used to have a television in the living room, and then and you may have had your parents have a small television in your parents' room, and sometimes a very small radio television, little bitty television in the kitchen. But around the 1985, we started having the black people trying to pretend that they've overcome and having a little bit more change to work with, and being those programs to be more consumers than savers. There became this need to have more. Everybody had to have their own, this individualism. Black folks did not used to believe in individualism. They believed in family. They believed in community. They believed in neighborhood. But there was this promotion at the end of the age of individualism. So now your child now had your own television in their room. Now that created two problems. One, it gave the child more separation from the parents and their siblings. It also gave parents less control over the things that the child watched. And so you were able to have these white companies promote your children having their own television. And what that did was gave these white companies that were promoting this to your child, it gave them uninterrupted access to your child's brain. And so now your child would sit in there and watch cartoons. But just like you with the story, a cartoon, let's say your child watches an hour of cartoon. Well, that actually ends up being only the same amount, about 20 minutes of cartoon to try and keep the child. Back in the day, that's now down to about 13 minutes of cartoon. The rest is completely commercial, and of course the human station promo. So, the same 45 minutes of commercials you're getting on an adult level, your children are getting 45 minutes on a child level. So both of you are being programmed to become pure consumers, and it has worked out. But let's break down some of the things that white companies have gotten black children to accept and support it. You have cartoons back in the day that promoted violence. Almost all of the cartoons promoted some degree of violence, from Bugs Bunny to Tom and Jerry. You had all of this stuff that was going on, very violent stuff. And so you would have the occasion of child hitting their siblings, like Tom hit Jerry or Jerry hit Tom. Or, trying to to do something like Bug did the dash, or that's whatever. But you had educational stuff that was since the elements into living law. There, you constantly had parents saying, turn that down, turn it off, change that channel, and you were able to hear when things were getting, when your child was watching something they shouldn't be watching, and you were able to monitor that, whether you were in the kitchen, wherever. At the end of the 80s, when you had children with their own television, you now had them watching television louder. Also had them watching whatever cartoons they wanted to watch. And also you had them being able to see huge amounts of commercials. And so the result of that is that now cartoons are able to, the same things that were being promoted to the adults, to be promoted to the children on the child level. For example, you had Shrek, and the first Shrek was good, but had some questionable parts. They tested the envelope, if you will, more so than pushed it. They tested the envelope. And so a lot of people did not realize that Shrek was actually not for children. Shrek was actually for adults. It should have said adults only, because in this cartoon you had a scene with a bartender in dressed up as a transvestite. And so that was something that they only put, a couple of things in there. But the fact that those things were in there made that image of a guy dressed up as a woman is now in your child's mind, in the computer, if you will. So that image is in there. They pushed the envelope the next time because it did not comply, or not enough for it to make a difference. The envelope was pushed so that you now had a whole gay character. And so the cat was once something is accepted, then the next phase of course is to get you to support it. And so the next character after the guy was transvestite, the character was completely finished. The male cat was completely finished. So you had now your support of this homosexual character. And of course, the next thing is to get you to promote it. And so now when people complain about the homosexual cat, you came to the defense of the film company. Say, oh, it's just a cartoon, it's just a this, it's just a that. That is your promoting of this image, this character as being okay. And so that basically is a mission accomplished for those that are promoting that. So you started seeing your acceptance and supporting of different dysfunctions, including homosexuality. You had cartoons where back in the day, speaking of Tom and Jerry, you would have Tom dressed up as a woman. And you would have a character like the King Panther that was a male cat, a panther cat that was feminine, so he was pink. And so, you had this image, but like I say, you had all these other counter images in cartoons that people tend to overlook, that one or two characters that are not so good. But now what you have is a variety of characters that are male characters. You have a bunch of people talking about how the male characters that were the Teletubbies, and one of them walked around with a purse. You had characters that while adults were watching characters, let's say the guy that was born, I guess, with a friend's girlfriend. And you had these four girlfriends, each with a different dysfunction, but you had to show, and it was, could have been a fairly decent show, but someone felt the need to add a homosexual black male character, and so you knew that these dysfunctions were being perpetrated. They would be programmed into black community. Because, the black community used to be very anti-homosexual. We had back in the day, we used to have to explain to people how it was able to, those different suggestions were able to be promoted in the black community. And it had a very difficult time spreading in the black community. It wasn't until the whole crack situation and the integration between integration crack and the promotion of the paying of preachers, entertainers. They used those four things to kind of promote whatever they wanted black folks to accept. And together, they would hit blacks from all four sides. You would see over a generation or two, you see blacks completely begin accepting things that were unacceptable just a few generations earlier. So I'm going to try to use poems as opposed to episodes. I try to use poems to kind of tell a story, tell history to children, to adults in a very short amount of time. And sometimes it hits you over the head. Yes, sometimes find the right words for it. And then sometimes it's a little bit subtle. So that's why I do the three different selections, the soft selection, the soft selection, and the hard selection. The soft selection is just made up of points that are basic things for individual people that ask you to do something, or that I do something for. The personal points are in the soft selection. The anniversary, the memorial anniversary for Katrina is in the soft selection. The dedication point in the soft selection. And then the points for black children's birth, for mothers and fathers when they have a child, is in the soft selection. Once you get to the strong selection, that is the selection that was intended to help black folks understand that black is something they should be proud of, not ashamed of. And so we promote their pride, restoring their pride, remembering their pride, remembering their history, remembering. Once we get to the hard selection, however, that is where we deal with the dysfunction, the things that have been perpetrated upon the black population. on black people. Uh, so the hard selection is, is bothers people. We tell them at any point, if you can prove that our poem is not telling you the truth, then that's one thing. But don't get upset because we put the truth out there because you're pretending that you don't see it, or you don't remember it, or you don't know it. You can't hear it. It's our job to fix this thing. And if that means that we have to stay free, hit your side of the head with history, then that's just what we have to do. So, this one I'm going to give you guys is one of those type things. And then I'm going to give you the children's first because the one who did the black stuff. A black male homosexual that didn't used to be, like didn't used to put that title on the family tree. Homosexuals were white men, and black men would stay away from anything and everything that even sounded gay. So what's to turn the table so dramatically so fast? Some blacks wanted to be like whites so we'd overcome it last. So white men began to prey on blacks with videos, foster homes, and prisons. Next thing we knew, black men had AIDS, and black HIV had AIDS. Black men said white women worshiped freaks and did things black women would not do. We hit the middle 80s, then the black AIDS take the street. Then blacks were having children that were strung out on crack. Black rap was turned to gangster rap, and black morality was laughed. Black women come with white women, then black women begin to say that God had made them not like them, but God had made them gay. White women, some whites started organizations, and they indoctrinated more. Then the sexual orientation bill hit the U.S. Congress floor. A bunch of white politicians passed the blacks and made many blacks vote their way. Now, even some preachers in our churches say it's okay to be gay. So in their book, it was seen. Some black preachers still, they say, that the devil had nothing to do with it, but God made them that way. Black families will accept it now. They're getting with the times. Who cares if it's destroying our black family bloodline? I know that God cannot believe that we fell for it again. The demons came and knocked in, and we quickly let them in. Now demons have confused us as some have lost the will to fight. But others know we have lost. Some blacks don't see the light. Black homosexuality is a mental illness, and it goes against things that our males and females were created for, the recreation of black offspring. Black homosexuality is a mental illness, and yes, it can be beaten. But it doesn't require acceptance. Black mental illness requires faith. God says, stop listening to the demons. God says, be mindful and be wise. God says, if you stop listening to the devil, then you stop falling for his lie. So God understands how evil promotes mental illness, which is the series that we are on now. And yes, it is causing a lot of distraction. So, now, we're going to give you, in the last show, we gave you what kind of mixed-up species black women. In the previous show, we gave you what kind of mixed-up species black men. And so, of course, you know what comes next. What kind of mixed-up species black offspring? Here we go. What kind of mixed-up species would be proud of being dumb? What kind of mixed-up species would walk around the streets like bums? What would make black children think that white people are their friends? That white people actually care for them, while whites break them with women? When whites broke the spirit of black ancestors, put millions of black men all in jail, used black women still as concubines, and set black children up to fail. Black children promote the progress of white economy and promote the downfall of their own, until the black dollar has no value now, and black neighborhoods are stripped down to the bone. black children not know their history and now act like shambles in front of whites, believing in fantasies and false beliefs from those who took their people's lives. What could whites have done to them to make them bend and fold? What could the devil promise them to make them sell their souls? The Creator said, don't worry, though my enemies think large. My enemy uses trickery, but I am still sharp. So some black children have sold their souls to him, and now they're scared black. I've sent 1,000 angels here to get black of their back. So that is what kind of mixed up species black offspring. And so we are going to see exactly how many people over the next 9 years. Remember, we are working on January 1st, 2010 to December 31st, 2019. We are working on the Fix It campaign, fixing some of these issues so that 2020 will not be worse than 2010. And so in order for you to fix 2020, you must begin now fixing some of the issues in your household, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your state, in your country, nation, and in your world, and in your universe. And so you have black people that are, gotten sick and tired. And remember, in 1900, you had a bunch of black people that were sick and tired of waiting for freedom, sick and tired of waiting for white people to do the right thing, if you will. And so they realized in 1900 that whites were pretty demonic. They were going to continue doing these demonic things to black people. And so we had blacks that said, well, white folks don't want to have anything to do with us. They don't want to be around us. They don't want to, they don't want the children going to our children. They don't want us in their banks. They don't want us in their schools. They don't want us, anywhere. So black people decided, well, then let's just do what we need to do in order to fix our situation. And so they started building black banks. They started building black schools, black colleges, different black institutions, everything that black people needed. They began building. We had black masons teaching black youth how to do masonry, all kinds of things. We're just building black neighborhoods, black communities, black cities. And of course, once black people were doing these things and building these things and prospering and whatnot, whites in their demonic fashion got upset and started attacking these places, started burning entire cities, entire towns. And we had a situation where in a couple of the cities we had whites infiltrated the cities, which is black people's fault. We had whites able to convince a weak Negro to put cyanide in the water in a black town and killed up a large portion of the population of that town, that black people. Of course, towns where white folks came through in mobs. White men, white women, and white children came through and watched on the fringes while white mobs of white men burnt the town to the ground. And we had white women and white children watching while white men shot and killed black men, black women, and black children, throwing them in mass graves and pits and burning them alive. burning their businesses, burning their schools, burning their churches. They actually sat and stood and enjoyed it as these things were happening. And so when we say, the demonic nature of this situation, we mean what we say. So, now you have black children walking around promoting death, promoting abuse, promoting children talking about how they got to hurry up and get to a house so that they can see some vampire show. They knew every character on the vampire show. You have black children listening to music where, they're promoting the killing of themselves, their peers, the other black males in their neighborhood, promoting the killing of women, promoting the killing of children. They're just promoting all of these demonic things that are perpetrated upon them. It's fun people that you can walk into a white music company, and that white music company is no longer able to promote demonic white music, rock, punk music. They still do it on some level, but they pretty much have moved away from it. And to replace that money, they now, if you walk in here and you only say, you do your song for them and you only say the N-word 3 times, well, the next person, next black male to come in, he says the N-word 10 times. So they're folks are like, I love it. That's what I'm talking about. And so, of course, the guy with the N-word 3 times still, he has to go and rewrite his stuff and say it 20 times. And that's how you got to this festering cancer that we have now. Pitted the young Negro, uneducated males against each other. There's been a cockfight. And so now they're all jockeying for these white companies, these white males and Latinos, to see who can degrade the black male, the black female, the black child the most. And the one that can degrade the black image the most is the one who gets the big contract. And so, this was done deliberately. It was done systematically. It was done strategically. So now you have children that are promoting, homosexual fun on cartoons. You got children that are promoting, sex on the different reality shows, different video music shows, promoting death on video games for the killing strike. And so you got all these deaths being promoted by children. So you would expect for them to become dysfunctional and retarded from that. And that is what we are setting out to see. Now, on the next show, we're going to talk about, like I told you, the things that senior citizens are promoting. Senior citizens used to promote saving